Okay, inshallah, we can start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome to Receiving Nur weekly Quranic study. We are continuing to journey in Quranic wisdom with Dr. Yamina. We've been reading for maybe two months now from Imam Nursi's windows of 33rd word. Inshallah, we'll continue today looking into another window that connects us with our Creator, inshallah. As usual, you're welcome to join in with your comments and questions throughout the session. We want to reflect together on the signs of God in light of the Quran. So without further delay, I'll turn to Dr. Yamina. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So today, inshallah, we'll start the 11th window, which is a reflection on Ayah 28 of Surah Ar-Ra'd, Surah 13, which actually we had studied together in the past. The whole ayah is those who believe and whose hearts find their peace, their rest, their satisfaction, different translations, in the remembrance of God, for truly in the remembrance of God, hearts do find their rest, their peace, their satisfaction, their tranquility. If we have someone, inshallah, who would volunteer to read the text, and then we can reflect on it. Anyone who would like to read, inshallah? Jalila? Assalamu alaikum, Jalila.
Unmuted. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Would you, do you mind reading for us, inshallah?
I'll read it. Do you want me to read the editor's notes or just all starting with all the souls?
You can start with all the souls. I think that's where the window starts.
Okay. All the souls and hearts pained and tormented by the suffering and confusion that misguidance endeavors can only be relieved by knowing the one and only Creator. They are saved by attributing all beings to only one Maker. They find peace with the mention of only one God. Indeed, if all beings are not attributed to one single being, then every single thing would have to be ascribed to innumerable causes, as it is clearly shown in the 22nd word. In that case, the existence of one single thing would be as difficult as the existence of all beings. In contrast, if we attribute all things and beings to God, it means that we are attributing them all to one single being. If we do not attribute them to God, then it implies that we are attributing the existence of every single thing to innumerable causes. In that case, the creation of a single fruit will become as complicated as the creation of the entire universe, and may be even more difficult than that. Indeed, if we give the command of one soldier to 100 officers, hundreds of difficulties would ensue. Whereas if 100 soldiers were to be commanded by one officer, their management would become as easy as commanding one single soldier. Similarly, it is extremely difficult and complicated for numerous diverse causes to converge in order to produce a single thing, while the creation of many things by one single being is very easy. Therefore, it is crucial to confirm the oneness of the Creator and to know God as the sole maker of everything. Indeed, it is only through knowing God as the sole creator that human beings can be saved from the endless torments that arise from the curiosity and desire for truth inherent in their nature. Clearly, the path of denial, kufr, and associating partners with God, shirk, is precluded and baseless since it involves manifold difficulties and pains. Whereas there is limitless ease in confirming divine oneness, an ease that corresponds to the ease, abundance and excellent artistry observable in the creation of beings. Without doubt, the path of divine oneness is necessary and it is the truth. You see how dark and painful the path of misguidance is? Why do you insist on following it? Look how easy and joyful the path of belief in Tawheed is. Enter that path and be saved.
Thank you. So the main argument here is that there is ease in unity, in everything proceeding from one single source, and there is difficulty in the opposite, which if they're not proceeding from one single source, it means every single thing is the product of many, many, many innumerable things. And that's very difficult. So the reasoning here, and we can now have a look at the note at the beginning, looks to reasoning and to the mind. The mind finds that this path makes sense. And as a result, the heart is satisfied. Plus, together with this is the ease and easiness, let's say, in having only one source, one maker of everything, has many, many other consequences that look to the heart, that look to bringing tranquility, bringing rest, because now this being, we start knowing him, has many qualities that satisfy the heart. And therefore, there are two aspects here. One look to reasoning. It's logical, it's reasonable, it makes sense. But much more important than this is who that being is. And so with that ease an ease that brings comfort and tranquility to the human hearts. So there we can discuss both. I know that we did talk a lot in the past, not only in the past, but also as we were reading these windows. Each window looked to how the creation witnessed and testified to the unity of God, to the unity of his being Rab, his Rububiyyah, to the unity of many of his divine names. Is that enough? But if you have any questions, like about this very, very crucial reasoning that the creation of a single thing is as easy as creating the whole universe when they are attributed to one single power, one single being, and the opposite is true. When they are not, then the creation of one single atom, one single thing, is as difficult as the creation of the whole universe, which means this precludes the creation through causes. It means causes cannot create anything. As we are told in the Quran, they cannot create anything because they themselves are being created. لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون. How can they create anything when they themselves are being made, are being created? This is the gist of Tawheed. This is the gist of the message of the Quran. If this is not clear, if we don't have certainty in this point, then everything else will, it's like having a vessel with a hole in it. It won't contain any water, anything. So we have, it's very crucial. And that's why the vessel here in a sense is the human heart. And that's why anything that happens will crack the heart, will disturb the peace, because it's not a lasting, a grounded, anchored tranquility and peace. Instead of me trying to guess and clarifying the reasoning here, I would love if we have some comments and questions. Otherwise, we can also have some group discussions. 2 points. One is regarding the heart, an easier, let's say, way to appreciate the blessing of Iman, the blessing of believing in one single creator, maker, sustainer. But here again, each time when I say this, I have always I don't want to be taken for the word to be taken for granted, because often we think we have Iman when actually we just do not deny the existence of God. Not denying the existence of God is good. It's the first step. When I'm not denying the existence of God, I'm the threshold. After that, I need divine guidance. Who is this God that I'm not denying? Who is He? I need God Himself to reveal Himself to me. I cannot find it on my own. And that's why we need divine guidance. We need the guidance of the Quran. We need the guidance of the Prophet. So in that guidance, I have to be making some efforts. It means I have to have made a choice, a decision, and intend to follow the path of knowing who God is. Why does it matter? Because this question comes from not knowing who God is. Because when I'm not denying the existence of God, and so God seems like something or someone, I don't know, like a being that is far away. Somehow the existence of everything is related to Him. Somehow He gives existence to everything, but not now, because that's unclear. I don't know Him really. And I don't know what it means to give existence, because I never stopped and paused and reflected on the meaning and therefore the importance of what I'm saying. And so it seems like God is far away, has nothing to do with me. And so say, okay, so what if I believe in God or not? What if I know God or not? Here we're talking about the sustainer, the creator, the giver of life, the giver of everything here and now. It means, like so far, we've many of the windows were about Rububiyyah, God being our Rabb, our sustainer. And a very easy way, I'm taking a shortcut now, is that right now I can speak and see and hear and understand because I'm alive. And this life that we often take for granted is not mine. How do I know that? Is because when I pause and reflect, I realize that I have no control over it. I have no control, just as I had no control where I was born, when I was born. I have no say and no control over when I live this world. And so anytime this breathing that we take often for granted, anytime can stop, and with it my life can stop, and it is not in my hand. So clearly someone is breathing life into me. Someone is bringing with life, all these faculties are being gifted to me and given at my disposition, but temporarily, because anytime they can leave, anytime I can lose anything. So I'm like a guest, not only in the world, but I'm also a guest in this body. So this is how we understand Rububiyyah. And now Rabb, God as my Rabb, if I understand it like this as my Rabb, I won't ask what is it to do with me. Now, if we listen, we will find a lots of fitri questions, like existential questions that we often forget, or we're too busy to listen to them, or we scared, because we are not sure there will be answers to those questions. And those existential questions, even if we don't, I'm not talking about necessarily articulating questions, but like a need for answer. And this need for answer, even if we're not aware of it, we can find it within us as, for instance, a fear of death. What is a fear of death? It means we don't know where we're going. And so obviously, if I don't know where I'm going, if I don't know what death is and what is after death, then there will be fear and anxiety, because it's unknown. Fear is more like a fear of something known. And so that actually underneath it is the need to know the meaning of what is death, what is after death. And actually, if we stay there, what is life? What is the meaning of life? What are we doing here? Where did we come from? Where are we going to? Who is in control? Because it seems someone is doing things. Who is he? What does he want from us? And like, if we stay there, we find out that, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, if he put us here and he gave us this sense of meaning, this sense of purpose, this sense of direction, then we expect from him answers. And that's why when we hear about divine guidance, about divine revelation, there is a fitri acceptance, because we don't say, where this is coming from? What does it mean? Because, yes, whoever is breathing life into me and should speak to me, tell me who he is, what I'm doing here, where I'm going. And that's my need for guidance, our need for guidance. So why did I go here? It's because I was saying it's easier to, I took a note here, okay. Easier to appreciate the blessing of Iman, but Iman is degrees of certainty that God, our sustainer, is in control. And this God, we get to know him through his creation and with his beautiful names. So we know him as the compassionate, as the one who has power over everything, control over everything, as the all-wise. He creates everything with meaning and wisdom and purpose. So when the more we have this iman that is based on shahada, on testimony, then experiencing the beautiful names of God, testifying to them, then we trust, we get to know him, trust his creation. Now, in order to appreciate, because after a while we may take it for granted, it's like living in light. We can imagine that there is no God, no afterlife. And if there is no God, no afterlife, what will happen to the world? How will we live life? And what would we do? This could be one discussion. This looks to the heart. Another discussion could be looking to how reasonable it is to ascribe everything to one God and how easy it is. And if there is no one God, one maker, one sustainer, one source of all being and existence, then all the other alternatives boil down to things are happening themselves, causes are somehow producing effects, and that is very, very difficult. We can have a discussion on that, because actually this second discussion is very crucial, because we often miss this discussion. We take it for granted. Of course, Allah is creating everything. Of course, we know. Then in practice, in our daily life, we find out that we don't have that full trust. Why? Because in our daily life, causes do seem to be very efficient. We expect results from causes, and we forget that is from God, or we never actually learned to testify how everything is an ayah, a messenger speaking about God and not the giver or the producer of anything. Does it make sense so far?
Yes, and I wanted to add two things, Dr. Yamina, if I may. This point about importance of iman and genuine tawheed can be hardly overemphasized. Today, I was yes. Today I was reading some verses from the Quran, and I was struck. Many people already know this, but I was struck to notice that it said there isn't a dharra, like even a tiny bit of shirk, like in creation. That there is no other power, not even a dharra, like not even a tiny bit of influence other than God, no other power, no other. And it is interesting because in the general belief in God, okay, God created everything, and then but the Quran keeps coming, no, there is only one God. It isn't that there is a God who kind of does the big stuff, and then there's little things that are attributed, helping a little bit natural forces, a little bit randomness, a little bit, this, a little bit that.
I do it.
The soup.
I do as well.
Yeah, I do as well. So it's a big soup, that shirk soup. So shirk and kufr are interrelated, but in the shirk that most people usually find themselves in, including us, implicitly, it's a soup. And why is that soup? Everything has some influence, including a creator. Why is that so painful? That question comes to mind, and I think it is painful when I reflect. it's painful because still, if there are other powers than just one, then it is always tentative, like nothing, you can be never sure of something. You can say, well, it's gonna work out, maybe, eventually it might, maybe, because there are other things, there are different things that, and the whole point about the causes, other than the causer of all causes, to add those causes into the soup, is that they don't care about you. The weather doesn't care about you, or even the person that you're in love with. I mean, I think in the moments of enchantment, for lack of better word, like there are moments where you kind of zone in to a situation. You're so excited to get this new job. You're so excited that your new baby is born, or you're excited that you just got, in love with someone. Like there are those moments of like enchantments where you feel there's a part in us that says, you know what, I don't really care about this and that. This is just it. And then immediately you're disillusioned because that thing that you're so kind of infatuated with immediately almost it shows a side that you're like, oh no, you're not perfect. Oh no, this is not my fulfillment. So I think that is where the catch of this verse is saying you can't find rest in anywhere except this finding the source of everything. And only then we can be in peace. And that's a really important and serious claim in this verse. And we, inshallah, it's up to us to be able to confirm that. There's a lot at stake. Many years ago, someone that I used to go to your halakha with in Istanbul, she shared that one of her friends said, I don't want to talk about Tawheed. She said, I just, I'm just worried about shopping and my boyfriend. Like, these are the things I care about. Like right now, I know it's not in my radar, God and so on. But it's only at that moment, that person is young, like at that moment of enchantment, you think this is it. I found my God and I don't need the other God. But then, that person very shortly will realize that that's not going to be fulfilling you. And then we need a place that we can really rest on, like really can trust, because everything else is moving. You said, I found this rock and it starts shaking. The moment you have the earthquake, you hate the house. We have lived through, with Rumeysa here too, we have lived through earthquakes in Istanbul. And then people were telling stories of how they hated the walls for a long time because the walls were kind of coming over to them. It was a major earthquake many years ago. So that very house you cherish, you love, this is it, I am settled, can all of a sudden turn against you. So what is it that place of security and safety, I have to find it, whatever that is, because everything else is so fluid and shifting sooner or later, and it doesn't give me peace. So when the verse says, truly in the dhikr of God, I used to think it's more like when you hum Allah, Allah, that something comes into your, body and your soul and you feel rested, which is probably true. But it was always a mystery to me.
If you know what you're saying.
Like it was always a mystery because you're humming something, a sacred phrase, and somehow you get calm and you feel calm. But the tafsir here by Imam Nursi is really unpacking what the verse is saying. The verse is not just saying dhikr in the sense of repeating the word, but also dhikr in the remembering, recognizing that all of this changing world, things coming, going, giving joy, disappointing, today you're alive, tomorrow you're dead, you have no guarantee. All this fluid world, in this, the heart is bewildered and the spirit is bewildered, and only with recognizing that despite its diversity and coming and going, all of it is actually coming from one stable source. Only then the heart says, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's very important. I wrote here, لا أحب الآفلين. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was looking for his Rabb, his sustainer, whatever he first said, oh, this could be it, and then he said, no, لا أحب الآفلين. I do not love what sets, what is transient, because one thing that we can always focus on, and in the Quran it's always Whenever it talks about shirk, whenever it talks about everything being an ayah, being a messenger from God, everything meaning every event, every creation, there is an emphasis on transience, because transience means everything seems to be there stable, but actually that's only the illusion of ghafla, of mindlessness. If we stop and pause and reflect, we'll understand that life itself and everything in it is constantly in a flow. So this fluidity, this transience itself gives to the heart the certainty, the assurance that things cannot be the source of anything. Causes cannot create anything. They cannot give me anything. So at least, even if we don't go through the reasoning that is taught in the Quran in many passages, how things cannot be the source of anything, one thing that is like shortcut, very powerful area, is transience. And transience is the door, the gate, the window onto God, onto eternity. That's where we find eternity, because if things are transient, they cannot be the source of anything. So what are they? And it's only then that we can truly recognize what an ayah is, and we can truly recognize their messages for us. And their messages always look to the eternal face of God. In their transience, they are saying that whatever they are bringing to us is not from them, it is from the eternal one. They are coming, it's like a flow. Something is coming and leaving. So things themselves are transient, each one, but the flow is constant. So the constance of the flow points is an ayah, points indicates a permanent source. That's very, very important. And only then we will understand what dhikr is, because dhikr is remembering. So if we remember, it means we know something. We know that how things are ayat, how they are speaking about God, how they are like mirrors reflecting the beautiful names of God. And so the world and our interaction with the world, instead of being an obstacle, something that makes us forget about God, on the contrary, actually, when we go through this path, the path that is taught in the Quran, we will see how everything is reminding us of God, everything is making a dhikr of God, everything is glorifying God. That's actually, I think, the 12th or 13th window. So it is when we get to understand the glorification of the creation and we participate in their glorification, glorifying God with them, by means of them actually, that is remembering God. So we remember God through his creation, not through not imagining something. Because then if we say Allah, Allah, of course it will bring some peace to the extent that we know God.
Dr. Yamina, there is somebody who would like to share a comment.
Please do so. Yes.
Assalamualaikum. There's so many things that you both said that I've been shifting the different questions that I have, but one thing that's particularly that I had a question about is when you said, Dr. Yamina, that we expect results from causes. Can you clarify that a little bit more? Like causes meaning what exactly?
Created things, but in our experience, like we saw in one of the windows, few of the windows in the past, everything is created in order. There is an order. Everything is harmoniously interconnected with each other. And so in interacting with the world, we get to know the order. For instance, if I put some seeds in I have to put them in the soil, and I put them somewhere where they get some sun, and I have to water them. And so unless I pause and reflect, it seems like if I don't water them, if they don't get sun, there will be no plant. And so now, without realizing, I start expecting results from the causes. The causes here, the apparent causes. Actually, they are all being created together, but when I don't pause and think about it, so it seems like I'm going to work every day, and that's how I'm making a living. If I don't go to work, there is no living. Therefore, I am the provider, and I am the provider in my job. And so this job is the source of my living. It seems as if there is no other source of living, because we don't see it as a door, a gate to a means of providence, of providing. We are caught up in the in the order. The order is actually an ayah mirroring, reflecting the order, because when we pause and ask questions, as we are taught in the Quran, in the example of the water, it's an example that's given a lot in the Quran because it's easy. And then we take
the fruit example in the next in the window itself, creation of a single fruit.
Yeah, or a fruit and the water, and it's given a lot in the Quran because it's easy to understand. Once we get the reasoning, then we can apply it to every situation, social, all kinds of situations. So it seems like, of course, water is contributing to the growth of this fruit, this plant, this whatever. Without water, there will be no life. Without water, there will be no plant. But in the Quran it says, look at, if you put water there and ask it to come, will it come to you? No, it does not hear you. It cannot hear you. It is lifeless. How can a lifeless thing give life to anything? Can we give what we don't have? It's impossible. Yet, in our ghafla, because we take things for granted, because we did not intend to truly observe, testify, observe, and question what's going on, then without realizing, it seems to us that somehow water is a source of life. Somehow the sunlight is a source of life. Somehow, and then it comes the same reasoning, we bring it to all our areas of life. But in fact, lifeless water cannot give life. Lifeless light cannot give life.
So it's,
yeah. Yes.
Sorry. No. So it's the causes end at the horizontal connection,
exactly,
not the vertical. I mean, like, okay, I think I understand now.
When we look vertically, then they all are speaking and glorifying the causer of all causes. Which, here and now, not at the end. Here and now. Not like in the very beginning, God created human beings, but like the mother somehow made her child. No, the mother doesn't know, has no idea what kind of child will be born. It is just coming through her, and so it is for all other so-called causes. Actually, they are not causes. In the Quran's terminology, they are ayat, they are signposts, they are messengers. They are all speaking about God. Glorifying Him has two meanings. One meaning is that they are saying, Subhanallah, it means there is no shirk. Subhanallah means tasbih from shirk. It means we are not the doers. Nothing can can come up with life. Life cannot be created or sustained by anything that is itself given life. Even if we think we have life, we're not like water, but we can't give life. We can't even sustain our own life. So tasbih has one is rejecting shirk, la ilaha, and illallah. There is no giver of life except him. Whoever is making this is the living, the ever living, who gives life to everything. So they are glorifying God and praising him with his beautiful names. Yeah, so no, the horizontal connections, actually there are no horizontal connections. They exist in our own illusion when we don't question things, when we are living in ghafla. Of course, if you live in kufr, totally denying everything, you will also see things in the same way. It means it seems to be horizontal. And one of the examples I gave in the past is like a child who is not aware, like you give him a telephone and can imagine that the telephone is actually connecting to everyone in the contact list. But actually, you know that it's not true. There is no direct contact between this telephone and another telephone. Telephones don't have anything. Even the software there is put by someone, and even that software has to connect through a satellite. The satellite will connect you through the other one.
Okay, I got it. It's clear. It's clear now. Thank you. And it just makes me think on something else that you mentioned about Iman being degrees of certainty, and just trying to make the connection between, expecting results from causes, and then the degree of certainty in your Iman elevates it to more of the vertical connection. That's how I'm processing it.
So these two are actually inversely proportionate. The more I know, the more I am certain, the more I testify, the more I observe and remember again and again, make a dhikr that they are not actually horizontally connected. And when I do that, that's the la ilaha part, then the illallah is revealed unto us. And then I see that, yes, someone is giving life to this. That is the giver of life. That is God. That is Allah. And now the heart is directly, the illallah looks to the heart. It is, we are inspired in the heart. The la ilaha is the reasoning. So when we do that, to that extent, our certainty in Iman will increase. Otherwise, if we are stuck in the horizontal and expect things from so-called causes, I expect water to grow my plants, I expect my job to bring me money, the money to bring me things, to bring me happiness. I expect my words to have an effect on my child will do this, and all those kind of connections that stay horizontal, that don't feel the need for the causer of causes, for God, for the one who changes hearts, for the one who inspires us, for the one who gives life, who gives anything we think of, then that's not Iman. Then we are in a state of shirk without realizing.
Wow, okay.
And
So,
that's why in that, well, instead of me saying it, how about Isra, can we have like some groups and we can,
Sure.
if, let's say, if there is no Iman in that sense, everything is vertical, everything is connected to God, It means everything is reminding us of God, everything is speaking about God, everything is glorifying God, declaring his beautiful names in a sense of making the shahada, not La ilaha illallah with the beautiful names. It means there is no giver of life except God. There is no generous except God. There is no provider except God. There is no, and so when this is not present in one's life, how do we, let's imagine a life without that. Therefore, there is no afterlife. How would we experience life? How experience, what are the consequences on everything else in our life? And we want to go back to the heart, like what do we do then? And how do we live? What does it, what's the implication for meaning, for purpose, for happiness, for satisfaction, for fulfillment, for whatever you think of? Can we have?
Yes, and then put the question, could we also put the question in this way? Would it bother us, or does it bother us when we think that everything has a piece, you know, everything has an effect, you know, this is influencing that, it's a soup, you know, and one thing is, does it bother us in our heart? And also, doesn't make sense to us, because I think, I don't know what you would say, but I think in the initial stage, it looks almost like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, a bit of sunlight, a bit of water, a bit of air, a bit of bacteria, a bit of, you know, rotation of the earth, and a bit of nitrogen and something, and it becomes an apple, a tree and an apple.
Yeah, it feels like, yes, there is God, but like God made them do this. What does it mean God made them do this?
Or they have,
he gave them, like as if he gave them some power or something. If he gave them some power, then I would only see their power. I wouldn't be able to see God's power. And how, with a little power, can you do anything? Can you create anything?
Because here in the text before us, it says, well, it is, it's not easy, logically speaking, or like it doesn't make sense. You know, one soldier, if this one soldier had many officers, all of them giving it commands, it would be harder than one officer under one soldier under one officer. Is that, you know, making sense to you? Like, does it feel easier if you attribute everything to different natural or social other causes? And when you
so we are now thinking about the same thing, though. I said from the beginning, there are two aspects here. One looks to the reasoning, the logic, and one looks to the effects on the heart. So I thought we would start with the effects on the heart, and then if we have time, we can go to the logic. Because the logic, you are right, the logic is very crucial. Actually, it is the hole in the cup, in the heart. And that's why any crisis, we can easily crush, because we don't have our so-called trust in God, our belief in God is not anchored. How do we anchor it? Through, on a daily basis, like not only daily basis, it becomes our way of living, our way of perceiving everything for vertical. But if we think that horizontal is normal, because that's how we view it, people think it's the universal way, that's what we learn at school, then, and that's how most the language also works, because it's a language that is the product of this mentality. If we are stuck there in the horizontal, then it is shirki, and then there is no way to find true lasting peace. So there are two steps here, and I thought the easier one is to start with the heart and seeing, like, the darkness, and then seeing what is at stake here. What is at stake is so important that it is worth spending time on this reasoning, because it seems like all reasoning the same thing again and again. That's what the Quran is repeating again and again. Yes, most Muslims don't talk about those passages, but they are that's the majority of the Quran. That's what it's talking about, because unless that is established, we will keep going back into shirk without even knowing that we are in shirk. And then no wonder we cannot find that piece of anchored iman, that certainty of iman, that certainty of akhirah. And akhirah here and now, not after we die, it's too late. Here and now. Why I'm saying here now? Because actually there is only here and now. A little later is not here. A little before is gone. We can only make istighfar about it. So if we understand what is at stake as far as meaning and purpose and eternal life is concerned, maybe we will have the patience. It is a path that needs perseverance and patience, especially in the beginning, until we grasp it, and then it becomes our way of life, and then we really, really enjoy it, and it's really, really pays off. It's really, really worth it. It is the path of the straight path that we talk about, we mention 5 times a day in the Fatiha, in Surah Al-Fatiha.
Okay, so then we can have the breakout groups. The question that we are going in with, that if we don't attribute things to one God only, that when we attribute them to many different causes.
If there is no God, beginning, we're not going there yet.
Okay, we are attributing things to a variety of causes.
No God, no akhirah. How do we live?
How does it feel? Yeah, how does it feel? And then if you have time, you can also talk about.
And you can think about all kinds of consequences.
Okay, so with that, inshallah, how long is the
3-4 minutes, enough to have some brainstorming, heartstorming, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. Just 1 second until we open the rooms. Dr. Yamina, I'm going to close the breakout sessions, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So are we back, inshallah?
They have 20 more seconds.
Oh,
Will close automatically. There were three groups. And I went into each very briefly, and there was some discussion going on, mashallah. Okay, welcome back, everyone.
That was very good. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for setting that up, Isra. Ziba was in the middle of a thought.
Oh, wow. So maybe
She was just,
she can share it now.
Your thought, Ziba. Let us hear it.
it was so good. And then it ended.
You know, I was saying, I was listening to someone, a scholar. She was saying that the difference between dead body and us, like she was comparing it, and she was saying, for dead body, you say, you know, you have to wash them, you have to. That's like the very limited need for a dead body, you know. So we are, our needs make us alive, but that's what we are basically. That's the difference between a dead body and we have needs and that are being met, but we don't realize it. But when it's in front of us, then we see it being shrouded, it being done things, but same thing is happening to us. So we are in needy, a bundle of needs, maybe you can say, and we are being taken care of each and every moment.
Okay, Ziba, can you explain it so like the difference between a live body that has needs that are taken care of and dead body has no needs? That
yeah, it has no need, but we see that okay, we have to do this for the dead body because human beings are doing it at that moment, but all of us are we are needy all the time, and our needs are being taken care of, and that's what makes us alive because we have needs, you know. And dead bodies needs are gone basically. It doesn't have, it has very limited, like you can count them one or two. It has to be given ghusl and it has to be buried basically. But for us, we are alive because of our needs. We are given those needs and those needs are met by the source, but we don't realize it that we have needs, they are given and they are taken care of as well.
Ziba, so what's wrong with thinking that the needs are met by many things, many causes? I need, some is met by the sunshine, some is met by.
Yeah, then it's like a mirage. You are running after a mirage basically, and when it it dooms on you that no, this then you fall back, you know, when you don't find that mirage. And it's an illusion for ourselves. We can run after it and get lost or find the source and get satisfied basically.
Thank you for sharing.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Yamina, everyone. I'm sorry I didn't figure out how to be a part of a breakout session, but I'm listening and I'm reflecting. If other groups are wanting to go first, maybe I'll wait. But I had a few thoughts regarding what you said today, Dr. Yamina, in the context of Surah Sad. If others want to go first, then I'll wait. Please let me know.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do, because it's fresh. They just came out of discussion groups. So let's have these three teams share. You can share your part, or you can share your team's, discussion. The floor is open.
So anybody would like to go continue with, or
Yeah, let's give them some space.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Jalila and Khadija. So Jalila and Khadija both said that they could not imagine a space without, without a Rab in it, like from the very get go, and then and then the contrast of that was but if there was if you actually imagine the space that did not have a Rab in it, it would be like what came, at least to my mind, was speed limit. When there's no speed limit, there's no one, there's no accountability. People just go and hurt themselves and hurt each other. And so things become chaotic. Like there's it's only you're you think you're self-sufficient, and the more you think you're self-sufficient and live in this imaginary world, the easier it is to transgress. So that was our team's general thought.
If I may jump in, I found this image very powerful and really, driving in a chaotic situation, and this sense of anything can crash anytime. That's a kind of a very, very powerful image of, for me, like living in a world where things are not under, one hand, that anything can happen. I mean, you can try, like this image of trying to drive in the best way you can. I don't know if you ever had an accident where somebody crushed you from the back or something. You like that really resonates with me, because in that situation you have I have some control over my car, but I don't have control over other people's cars and their brakes. And then when you experience that crush, it's kind of a really existentially difficult, very strong feeling, very painful feeling that things are out of control, out of my control. And then there's so many other factors, so many other drivers, and image of driving in a place where there's no order, no speed limit, or just in general no overall order. That I found that very powerful. Thank you.
One of our group members mentioned knowing a colleague who I believe she said that she doesn't believe in God, and just the level of anxiety. So we, self-sufficiency, I think for some people can be like, I can do it all myself and I'm going to. And seeing it on the flip side too, of I have to do everything myself. And she said that for this individual, the level of anxiety was so thick that just being around them, was it was palatable. Their anxiety was palatable because they really felt like they have to make everything happen for themselves.
Yeah, that's a good one, because this anxiety about even believers, and this is what we are doing with the Receiving Noor Healing series and then the Receiving Noor Trauma series, is to heal ourselves from the anxiety that comes in when we, for a fraction of our time, forget that we are taken care of. And for that little fraction of the time that we forget we're taken care of, there is an anxiety that builds up inside us. And that anxiety keeps building every time we forget that we're taken care of, until it becomes a sickness, a total sickness that could be, disabling, or until it makes us say, okay, we cannot take this anymore. I need to start my healing journey now. So, and that's even with people who believe there is God, but momentarily forget that everything is taken care of. So yes, so I can imagine it will be palpable by others.
The image that just came to my mind too, because we Zahra and I and Ziba, we were in the group with Samina talking about this, but like the visual that just came to my mind is like everyone feels how unstable the world is because people are passing, the economy is crashing, the virus is blah blah blah. Like people in general, everyone, whether you have belief or not, or faith or not, knows how unstable the world is. But then the one who doesn't have belief in this permanent source is every time the earth quakes with this new realization, they're just falling on the floor, they're just total panic. And then I love the Quran gives us the reminder to hold on to the rope of belief in God. And it reminds me of the visual of being on the subway. It's like when you're on the subway, you're on something that's moving. And so, you know, if you're going to be in New York, then most likely you're going to be standing, and then there's the bars. So it's a huge difference to be standing on a subway or standing on an unstable surface. And with every stop, you're going to be thrown into a new calamity or a new traumatic situation. But if you're holding firmly to something that is stable, then no matter how, you know, how much it's going to throw you, you're just, there's some calming. And it reminds me of the Quranic word that Dr. Yamina always uses, like istiqama or maqam, this thabat. Just the Quran offers this like firm grounding so that you don't have to be tossed around in the subway. And it's just so relieving. We were so blessed to have something so constant and permanent to hold on to.
Yeah. Because it reminds me that, you know, often people say that trauma is not about the severity of the incident necessarily, you know, the event that causes the traumatic response, because different people can respond in different way. The trauma is more about when something happens to us faster than we can process it. And if we are not ready, if we're not anchored, then we become very vulnerable. Anything can be just too much. We're overwhelmed. And that's when people say we've become traumatized. Not even even with things that you wouldn't think this would cause a trauma. I had a neighbor recently selling her house, and she was asking the neighbors to help her empty the basement because it was full. She said it's full of clutter. And she said, I can't do anything now. I'm just frozen. I feel traumatized. You would be like, she wanted to sell the house and it's sold. Now you can ask for help still, but not in a state of panic. Subhanallah. So it's not about the need. It's about how we feel about it. You can totally feel that you need help with this. You can totally feel, but being traumatized to the extent of being totally frozen and totally feeling sick, subhanallah. And it's not like, it's not an illness, it's not something serious. You're selling your house and you wanted to sell the house. It's almost like something good in a way. Yes, please.
So I Sarah, just wanted to say this one. I was reading Spinoza just coincidentally something just mentioned.
The voice is very, I personally barely can hear you, Sarah.
Okay, let me see. Is it better now? A little bit?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So I see here in the Surah Sad that we are obviously told about the reminders, that Quran is a reminder and all the stories of the prophets are there. But there is one thing particularly that's sort of is striking to me, is that when we look at our relationship with God, as you said, that everything is going back to the creation, as well as the creation coming to an end temporarily with death, and then resurrection, and the consequences of these events in our lives in the afterlife. One thing that is reminded in this surah again and again is, and so and so, whichever prophet God talked about in the Surah Sad, he was constant in reaching back out to me, or he was remembering constantly. He was returning constantly, whether it was Solomon who repented, or whether it was some other prophet in their suffering and in distress, they called back to Allah. My concern and question to you in the, I guess, the physical world's sense is the duality of our existence and the lack of clarity, because so much is in the ghaib. And so to reconcile that as mere nothing humans, in that sense that, our wisdom is only, our intelligence or our tafakkur can only go so far, because Allah Ta'ala himself tells us in Quran that a lot of things the human mind cannot process because it's a matter of the ghaib, including the ruh. So whether it is the theme of the death, whether it is the theme of afterlife, whether it is the theme of how we live our lives here, being destined to earn and destined to be, not able to figure out things at times because that's the will of Allah. In the meantime, how can one get clarity? And I think the point that you made today is that whenever we are at that intercept of lack of direction and that lack of spiritual constancy in finding that relief, at least in remembering Allah, that we have these warnings, whether it is from the Seerah or from the Quran, reading and remembering of Allah's names, beautiful names, that here, that's what you're supposed to hold on to. Like other sisters said in the groups, I wasn't a part of the breakout group. Next time, I think I'll try to figure out how to just kind of join one in time. But I realize in the context of my grief and my illness also, what I'm holding on to is the memories of my dear husband being a lot more religious than I have ever been. And now that, together with the contacts that over time, thank God, God has blessed me with, including with you, and a lot of other spiritual readings that I'm doing, and just in general, finding that rope to become stronger and stronger in terms of its fibers. Because for me to suddenly deal with illness and grief all together in a short period of time is just, like you said, it's just too much. And the vulnerability puts the faith at risk of being lost. So the question that I have is about the duality of our existence in terms of the good and the bad, and not knowing and knowing related anxiety. But the clarity that we seek is also hidden from us, because it's the supreme most Allah Ta'ala's power, that he knows everything and we are not supposed to, and we are not designed to. How do we reconcile that duality of existence and the known unknown anxiety that we get, whether it is related to the passage of our lives and the sufferings that we have to endure? And also, how do we prepare best to, I almost think like whenever in Quran, the analogy and the example of birds is given, that one day the spirit leaves the body and that's our flight. We don't have wings, but our spirits do, hopefully. And is that the imagination that I am supposed to have, to recognize that instead of becoming so afraid of the unknown, why can't I think about the good that can come with it or because of it in the continuation of my essence? Thank you.
Thank you. Now the question is quite broad and it has many components. So I'm not going to be able to address all of them. And I will focus on when you say unknown, from, if I understood correctly. Now, we need clarity in who we are as abd, as being the recipient of all kinds of blessings, of being given existence here and now, and that nothing is from us and nothing is actually under our control. And whatever the little things that we think we are controlling, we are only controlling them by the will of God. Sometimes they also become outside our will of control, because either we lose the power to do it or things change. Because as we said, things are always constantly flowing, changing, and nothing is under our control. So clarity about who we are, the more we are clear about that, the more we will find that peace, because the more likely, if we make peace with that reality, if we accept that reality, if we surrender to that reality, that's what Muslim is, to surrender to that reality, because that reality is the will of God. That's how he created us. That's how he's creating us right now. Then we will be clear about who God is in the sense of he is our Rabb, he's our sustainer, he is our provider. It means we become clear about the beautiful names of God, belonging to God alone, to one being alone, and that's God. That's what we call God. Then we become clear about this through testifying the face of God, the face of everything in the creation that look to the eternal beautiful names. This is a training, of course, but this training needs not only intention, but willingness, the willingness to surrender, the willingness to make peace with the reality. Once we know who we are, clear about who we are, to that extent we become clear about who God is as our Rabb with his beautiful names. To that extent we become clear about Akhirah. Now, what will happen in Akhirah, we don't know, but we don't care anymore. Why? Because Akhirah is where the most beautiful names of God will be manifested and reflected without veils. It means there will be health, there will be beauty, there will be perfection, there will be mercy, there will be compassion, there will be love, all the beautiful names of God. There will be generosity, there will be hospitality, all the beautiful things, all goodness will be there. So in which form it is, we don't have the need for that. We don't have the need to know the form of something. We don't have the need, for instance, if we have a need for meaning, in which form it comes is secondary. It comes in different forms. If we have a need for friendships, we don't say, I want to be friends with this specific person. No. As long as there is that friendship, the need is being attended to. And it is the same. So those things, the details, they are unknown, but it is good that they are unknown, because then we are open to the endless possibilities in this world and in the next. What we need to know is that whatever will be created in this world or in the next will be created with wisdom, with meaning, with beauty, with perfection. That's what we need. And with this, once we are clear about who we are, about who God is, we become clear about our destination, Akhirah, because we become clear that here and now we're on a journey, we're traveling, we're nothing. Right now, our house is, each one of us, it's my body and the world. Primarily, it's the body. Secondly, I'm saying this because we tend to not be aware that we are in a body, and so we identify with the body as if it's us. But no, we We are something much, much more comprehensive than the body. The body is our house in this world. What we will have in the hereafter, we don't know. And it doesn't matter. We don't need to know. What we need to know is that someone is taking us on this journey to our destination that is eternal after death. So the meaning of death changes. We become clear that death is the gate to paradise, the death to eternal life, the death to meeting God closer without the veils of this world. And so the istiqamah, the direction, becomes also clearer. These things, we are given clear guidance in the Quran. Anything else, we don't really need. We don't really need the specifics and the details of things. Whatever we need is repeated again and again. For instance, in order to have this clarity, in order to have the clarity of who we are and who God is, I gave it's not that, maybe I talked about it, but it's also the topic of today's window is that everything proceeds from one single source. Now, I mentioned the repeated ayah in the Quran that says that everything nothing can create anything because they are themselves being created. لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون. Like, isn't that enough? If we can observe this reality, isn't that enough? Like, to know that, okay, nothing can create anything, therefore the la ilaha, therefore the creator is this and that. No, apparently not. Why? Because there are so many other arguments in the Quran that all tells us in different ways, from different aspects, that nothing can create, that things can't create anything. Things that look like causes to us, that look like they're producing other things, cannot create anything. And so it means there is a need. There is a need for different reasons. One of them is when we look at things from different aspects, the argument from different aspects. From each aspect, when we say La ilaha from this aspect, illallah comes with a different name of God. So we get to know God with his different names. The second one looks to the need that we have in us, which looks to the ego, that part of us that clings onto ownership, that wants to falsely claim that we create, I am, I have, I do, that claims substance, like as if I exist on my own. And from time to time, I need help from God as well. That is total lie. That is a delusion. So that delusion of the I, of the ego, that is clinging and resists and doesn't want to surrender, doesn't want to let go of those false claims, of those lies. It needs, how do you say, different arguments to say, like, until it has nothing to hold on. Or let's say, for me personally, I see it as when we are willing to surrender, then divine guidance, the Quran, the guidance of the Quran makes it easy onto us. It is a rahmah, it is compassion, it is love, that Allah makes it easy onto us and say, if you are willing to surrender, I will give you all they are not actually excuses, they are truths. I will give you all the argument to stop that ego, to shut it up, to stop it from transgressing, and to make the surrender easier onto us. So even when we decide and intend and choose to surrender, from time to time something happens and that ego still wants to claim something, we say astaghfirullah. Why? Astaghfirullah is an action. I come up with a myriad, many arguments that are provided for me. There are tools provided in the Quran that I will stop and say, I don't listen to you, it's a lie, because this. I have many reasonings, many arguments. Otherwise, we think one argument would be enough. And only then, when I totally surrender, so when I totally surrender, I'm not talking only in a long period of time. In the moment that I totally surrender, I totally can relate to God as my Rabb here and now, and therefore the Rabb of everything. Therefore, in that state, I will not see things horizontally. I will not give power to lifeless, ignorant, powerless causes. I will be able to see that everything is from God, and that's when I start experiencing and tasting the beautiful names of God. And that's true Tawheed, and that's when the human heart finds peace. So actually the heart looks to the inner world, and the reasoning looks more to the outer world. And that's why when I asked the question, because I said, imagine a world without God, I had imagined that we will go to our inner, like Jalila and I think Alia was sharing, like how we can't even imagine a world without God or without afterlife, because a world without God is like a world in darkness, no lasting purpose. If there is no lastingness, it means no purpose is true purpose. It doesn't last. And no meaning is true meaning, because if it doesn't last, it's not truly a meaning. And so the thing we crave for the most totally crushes. There is no purpose and no meaning. Can you imagine what kind of life it is? What do people do? When we look around us, we see people, what they do? Like trying to hold on to sometimes fitri values, like values that come from the fitra, that are anchored in beautiful names of God. But because for that person, there is no connection with God, with the beautiful names of God, it remains, again, it is temporary. I could be doing very good work, helping people, doing things that we are created in a way, like programmed to like to do, but it brings some satisfaction, but temporary satisfaction. And that's why inside there is deep pain. You find this there is a whole culture in the West, not only in the States. Actually, I lived in the UK, and there it was even more. Death is a total taboo, because have to avoid it, because death reminds us of everything we are doing, all our achievements, all our what we're striving for has no true meaning, and because it's not lasting. If it's not lasting, it's like multiplying by 0 at the end. It means achievement or not, being good or bad, all become equal, because there is no lastingness. Can you imagine? And the human heart says no to this. It can't be like this. There is a difference between good and bad. There is a difference between kindness and cruelty. And so this result, it takes us to a deep, unsettling discomfort, unfulfillment, inner, despair, helplessness. dissatisfaction. So now we can understand how much iman, in belief and certainty in one God that we know with his beautiful names. Because if we don't have the beautiful names, then it doesn't make sense either. That true Tawheed truly brings satisfaction and peace and tranquility to the heart. The word used in Arabic is تطمئن الذين آمنوا وتطمئن قلوبهم بذكر الله ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. So this itmi'nan or tuma'nina is tranquility, calm, peace, serenity, peace of mind. Tammana is to calm, to quiet. Itmi'nan is to feel secure, to feel safe. Tatmin is calming, soothing, comforting, satisfaction, reassurance. So all these meanings are there in this word. Very, very, very powerful word. And so this looks to the heart, to the inner world. In order to achieve this in the inner world, in the outer world, we need more than one argument, one reasoning. We need a myriad. The Quran gives us a myriad of arguments to increase our certainty that truly there is no horizontal connection between things. Everything is interconnected, not one with the other directly. All of them are interconnected because all of them at once are connected to one source. It's like all telephones are potentially can be related to one satellite. So once they are related to one satellite, each one can connect, it becomes connected to everything else, in that sense, vertically. And so now you can see how important this argument is, the arguments are, and how that's why they are repeated. There are so many of them because we need them so much, not only because of the resistance we have, but also because we need to know God from different aspects with his different beautiful names. What we need to know and make sure is to know God with his beautiful names. And we know God with his beautiful names, and we experience those names, and we taste them to the extent that we are aware of our needs and how they are being taken care of here and now. Once we have certainty, clarity with that certainty, we are told in the Quran, yaqeen, then when will I die? It doesn't matter. How will I die? Secondary. It doesn't really matter. Whether I'm living or dying or after death, what matters to me is I am Abdullah. I am the creature, the abd, the worshipper of this all benevolent, kind, generous, all powerful, merciful, compassionate God. That I need certainty with.
Thank you, Dr. Yamina. Very, very helpful, because that is what I need to improve my relationship with Allah. Because I'm trying to really reflect on when so much suffering, and it's not just me, when I see other people enduring cancer or going through grief. And like other sisters said, the pandemic and its aftermath and fallout in families and in the communities, in the world, politically, economically, pollution, environment, people having fitna and raising their children born with illnesses that are congenital, unnecessary suffering, wars, natural disasters, mischief in the world from conspiracies. You know, a point comes in time in thinking as a woman in my age or our age group, like, 30, 40, 50 onwards, that as adult women, Muslims or Muslimas who want to excel in improving their faith and belief in God, that, we do recognize that there is an end to this, there is a transience to this world, And while we are in it, regardless of how bad it gets, we do the best that we can in living our own lives and finishing our times on earth with ihsan, but also recognizing that all of this is not wasteful, that whatever we endure with patience and perseverance and still do good things. And like you said, that the fear of the unknown, of the passage, and living and going through the door of death and passing on to the hereafter, it's not disenchanting. You know, a thought comes to my mind, God, then what's the point? Why do I have to come to you with so much suffering in my lifetime? And then you offer me Jannah. I hope my soul will not tell you, I'm sorry, I'm so upset and I'm so sad that I have lost all excitement to be in Jannah. That sounds very silly, but it's my fear that if my iman is strong enough to endure all this and then say, no, God, I don't want to come to you complaining. And when you will call me, I will also surrender to you. And while I'm here, I need to do whatever I need to do right. But just give me the guidance and the strength to put myself through all this. And that's why I asked you this question. Personally, it is very personal, and viscerally, I feel that panic. Literally, viscerally, I feel that panic that am I so ill-confident in my faithfulness to Allah now that I finally turned towards Him because He shook me up and called me back to remembering Him after all of the deep losses and life-threatening illness that I face. And yet, I cannot stop thanking Him for my blessings. And thank God that I came to recognize that yes, indeed, these are ayats, these are signs that even if I take away what you think is most dear to you, and I up and down, left and right, give you some challenges, I still spare you some blessings that are very priceless. And the mind really has to twist and turn and be bended in certain ways to really absorb and have the ability to hold it as a sponge and hold it in a hopeful way.
Yeah, it's like expanding the heart to get more. And that expansion, we say we don't want to expand, like leave me as it is. But you said, like rightly, everything is passing. We need to, this is something that need to not remain as information, but something to meditate and reflect on a daily basis, as the Prophet ﷺ did, and as we are asked to do in the Quran again and again. Everything is passing. There is only now. The more we live in the now, the more all those things that we think it feels like are lost, it's because I am still holding on to the past. That's why I lost. Yes, there is a difference, and otherwise there will be no emotions, and there will be no needs, and there will be no feeling the need to go back to God and to ask for something and to experience His giving, his generosity, His compassion in different ways. So yes, all those things are correct, but it's like we are told in the Quran, "Inna ma'al usri yusra." There is within hardship, there is ease. With that iman, and iman is also the realization that it's only now. And so we are clear about the past and clear about the future. And there is that surrender, that trust in God. Then what we lost in the past, we lost it temporarily, because we are all, everything is bound to come back together after death. So that temporarily brings ease within the hardship. And as you said, nothing is in vain. Everything has meaning, and a meaning that is beautiful, that looks to eternal life. And we need to always compare with, okay, let's say it didn't happen like this. Let's say everything is I wanted forever, and I never realize that this life is transient, that everything will end with death. Is it worth it? Because we say yes, but like I have a whole life of fulfillment. Yes, but that life will end one day with everything. And it's not only when it ends that I'll be unfulfilled. It is now knowing that there is no lastingness will spoil the fulfillment and the satisfaction here and now. Because the heart, the human soul, they long for, they crave lastingness. So when we compare with what we imagine should be, we realize that however hard it seems to be, there is ease right within it.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina. Now, as the time is getting close, we have a question on the chat box. It says, Assalamu alaikum, I'd like to understand how to correlate not taking reasons or, I guess, causes with the concept of true tawakkul. So I guess it's bringing us...
not taking causes? What? Not taking causes as what?
I guess it's referring to the idea that you mentioned that there are no horizontal connections, so the causes have no effect. There's only one source.
There is order, but there is order.
So how does it relate to causes and tawakkul? How does it?
So it is, if I understood correctly, if I have there is an order, like the light system in a house, the electricity is put in a way that when the switch is on, there is light. And I need to have the bulbs working as well. And we are clear that the switch is not producing the light, it's part of a system. So,
but it still feels like it's one of the causes of light. That it closes a switch, it closes a circuit, and
it's only an example. Just a second. So we need to, since we are talking about tawakkul is, the question seems to be coming from a place where we are not sure, or it's not about not being sure. It's about, let's say, start from the beginning. We knew God, for instance, as the provider. I need providence. Or as the giver of health. I need health right now. If I only heard and read that God is the giver of health, then it's going to be, I may ask, how am I not, does it mean that I don't need any medicine to take anything since God is the giver of health? Now, if I actually heard that Allah is the Shafi, the healer, and I say, how do I know that he's the healer? So I have to go and look at the medicine I'm taking. It's an herb or some vitamin or some kind of pill or something. The pill doesn't know anything, doesn't have any power, doesn't see, as it says in the Quran, doesn't have hands, doesn't have feet, doesn't speak, cannot help me or not help me, cannot harm me, or on its own, it doesn't have any power. Yet it goes into the body and interacts with some things. It means it is part of an order. So I ask, is this medicine, does it know and it is giving me health? There's no way. When I ask the question, clearly It does not. Is the body using it in a way? What's the body? It's matter as well. If life is not breathed into it, it will become dead matter. So none of them has the intelligence, the consciousness, the planning, the ordering to do this. They cannot give what they don't have. So someone who is making the body right now work in this way, in a very harmonious way, in a very ordered and balanced way. When we spoil the balance, it causes all kinds of illness and diseases. When the balance is restored, everything comes back. So now I testify that whoever is making my body right now is restoring the balance with this matter, with this pill, because that pill was found, or an herb or something, through research or through observation, that there is when we have less of this and this, the body's balance is spoiled, so we need to give it this. So now I have testified that God is the healer. So I don't ask whether I should take the medicine or not, whether does it mean that since God is the healer, I don't take the medicine. Now, as I take the medicine, I am again taking it in the name of God, Bismillah. That's why we say Bismillah, to remember that He is in the name of the healer, the one who put all this order, all this balance, all this myriad in numerous interconnection within the body and with the rest of the world, with my thoughts, with my feelings, with how I perceive the world. Everything is interconnected. He is the one who gives well-being and health, and I take it in His name, trusting that He gives the best. He's the one who He's giving me this need for well-being, and I am answering the call. So I am doing this, acting with Iman, with Tawakkul.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yamina. Actually, it was me asking this question, and thank you for the clarification. I know that thinking about the causes itself or the reason that we need to take sometimes can cause an worrying and an anxiety. And we are creatures who are choosing between things. We have different choices, and having different choices sometimes make it, and we are also ordered to take or make tawakkul in our decisions. So we have to think about what would be the best choice, so that and make tawakkul and go for it. But during this kind of procedure, the mind is always thinking and struggling because we don't see the ghaib. And also sometimes when you are talking about thinking too much about the causes, sometimes I am afraid it's kind of shirk. So I mean, how can we, in front of a lot of choices that we have, and we have to make the best of them to do the real tawakkul, and then after that leave whatever the consequences happen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During this procedure, how to make it as easy as possible with complete tawakkul, without any kind of without having a lot of being worried in this procedure, if this makes sense.
I mean, since I don't know the situation, I don't know if there are like those many choices. It will depends on different perspectives. different people are going to see the situation in different perspectives. But
yeah, my point has not to think a lot about them.
To have fear and to have anxiety is not the problem, because the fear and the anxiety themselves are what reminds us to seek help and refuge from God. To find ourselves in constant fear and anxiety and stress, that's a red light, a red flag that maybe there is a problem. Either I'm not going back to God, or I don't know God enough in my heart. It's not bringing that peace, because if I don't know him, then I cannot trust him. And so it becomes chronic anxiety and fear, and that fear making choices from based on fear is definitely not a good thing. Making choices while anchored in trusting God, in having that hope, that trust, then the clarity becomes, we're clearer. Otherwise, we're in a panic mode. So the problem is not in having anxiety and fear. The problem is if we find ourselves, we can't go out of that anxiety and fear. It means the anxiety and fear are not fulfilling their message, because they are also created for a purpose. They are bringing me a message, either telling me you can do it on your own, seek refuge with God, ask for help, and that I may be then inspired, you may be inspired to ask for help with some others. Or it could be, the message could be, it depends on the person and their situation. The message could be that I am stuck because I have not learned to go back to God, because God is still not something palpable, it's not a reality in my life. And it's time for istighfar, it's a time to go back and sit, because wherever we are in the journey, we have an understanding of God as our Rabb here and now. Whoever has my life in his hand, as the Prophet ﷺ says. Whoever is making me breathe now, whoever has the life of whoever is in need of health now, you are the one who you are the owner of our lives and our health. So stay there. It means maybe we're not spending enough time, because sometimes we rush through dua, and is not just rushing. We have to stay there until we feel it. And if there is fear and anxiety, we have to stay there until the anxiety and fear goes and the peace comes. And we have to be willing. Willingness is the first thing to let go, because sometimes it feels, if I don't have fear and anxiety, I'm not caring enough and I won't be doing my best. No, if there is too much fear and anxiety, it can be paralyzing, and then I can't see things clearly and I can't make a clear decision. The decision has to come from an anchored space of tawakkul, of trusting that I'll be guided, and there is the inner GPS there is that inner inspiration, and Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah. Show us the best thing as the best, and make following it easy onto us. And if it's not, then show me the signs to follow something else. In order to have clarity, we need to be calm, in that space of inner calm. And that we only have it when we are aware of our connection with God, when we feel in the divine presence. And wherever however the iman is high or down, doesn't matter. There is a fitri connection with God. We just need to sit enough to find it. And in that sitting, we need to be willing to let go of the fear and the anxiety. The fear and the anxiety are not part of us. They are messengers bringing a message from God, telling us, for instance, one obvious message is that you need help. And the first help is from God, and then I'll be inspired. Oh, I may be inspired to contact a person, to do something, but from that space of being anchored and connected. Because from a space of disconnection, of fear and anxiety, then there is confusion. Even if I take if it's the right decision, it won't always bring the right results.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you so much.
Astaghfirullah. Shall we stop here, inshallah?
Inshallah, yes. I think Naima had a comment from before.
Please.
Yeah.
So like I don't think there's enough time. It's a lot because in between then and now, a lot of things were shared. So I don't know if I should even go into that because I think we'll be here a lot longer. I'll save it for next time, inshallah.
Yeah,
do that.
Keep it for next time, inshallah.
Inshallah, yes. Please take some notes so you won't lose it, and please, we can, inshallah, we hope to hear it next time.
And next window is about tasbih and glorifying God. And I think I wanted to focus a little bit on the inner aspect of tranquility. And when we don't have that connection, how everything is in darkness and purposelessness and meaninglessness. And therefore, fear, anxiety, all these things will become not messengers. They don't have meaning. They just stay there forever. It feels like there is no way out, so that we appreciate what is at stake and have the patience to go through the different arguments and the reasoning that is offered to us in the Quran about how what seems to be horizontal connections between things are not. They are all vertical. They are all ayat. They are all pointing to God. That's so important because without it, it's like there is a big hole in that cup of the heart of the soul, and no wonder the peace doesn't last. And very quickly we find ourselves overwhelmed with fears and anxieties to the extent that sometimes we're not even aware that we're living with stress because it becomes so much part of our life. And so it's really, really worth, because it's not only being at peace in this world, but it concerns our eternal life. So it's very important. And believe me, once we learn how to those arguments and to learn how to reason and perceive the world in a certain way, then that reasoning becomes our default way of seeing the world. It only takes patience in the beginning. And it's beautiful and it's very exciting. So I'm just saying this because often people would just want to go to the result of Iman. Yeah, but how do we get there? It's like, it feels tedious. It feels tedious in the beginning because we are not used to. That's what I wanted to share, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Dr. Yamina. Jazakallah khair. And hopefully, maybe we can go over that part a bit more next time. That part about the reflection on.
Inshallah. And if you have any comment like Naima, please keep
Yes.
it and share it.
Yes, inshallah.
Copy paste it and share it, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah.
Or remind us, we may find it, inshallah.
Inshallah. And just to remind that on Friday, we will have the second session of understanding nature of trauma with Sister Amina Elizabeth. Just wanted to clarify that it says EDT in the flyer, but it's Eastern time actually, because we had daylight savings. And so it's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, inshallah. The joining instructions are the same as today's instructions. Okay, so
Thank you. Thank you. جزاك الله خير إسراء. Thank you everyone. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم.